It's Tuesday again, so that means it's time for us to, talk to you and stuff. Well, welcome into another episode of the Parking Brown Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Nick Carnes. To my left, right, whatever. I don't know technically what it is. Okay,
what are directions, really?
It's like right if I'm looking at you, and if it's left, if I'm looking like that, if it's the screen. Hell, I don't know. Casey is working. He's Santa Claus. That has been confirmed. He is Santa Claus, so he's not here tonight. We're brought to you by our friends at SeatGeek. If you want to get some tickets to anything, go to SeatGeek. Parking Grounds, $20 off the first purchase. Subscribe to the YouTube. Give us a thumbs up.
I'll tell you what. That last home game is no longer a night game. It's a 4:30-er, which would probably be preferable, honestly, late in December.
Yeah, that always was the funny one that was going to be the one that they picked to be a night game, and
right.
Because if it had been a game of consequence, and I think it could still be a game of consequence for the Dolphins. I'm not sure what their playoff situation is totally or not, but it was going to. I think that the NFL almost gave the Browns a really nice setup if the Browns were competitive this year,
right.
Just because they would have had a night game for that fair weather, the good weather team, so to speak. But as someone,
if you want to go to a Browns game, if you want to, you no longer have to go at night. And I get it. I know where the Browns are right now. I understand that. But you can use our code Barking Browns. You can go because it's going to be like February 24th, and you're really going to miss football. And you're going to be like, damn, maybe I should have went to that last Browns game, even though they sucked.
You really sold me, damn it. You really sold me with that line of conversation. I've done so much work on the draft that I'm like to the point now where the season's been over in my head, so I'm like checked out of what's actually happening, and I'm just trying to look at like the future and stuff. So like I did a spot on the OBRs with Quincy Carrier on his show, him and Pete Smith. Pete Smith and I joined him last night. I was like going through some stuff, and I realized like how ill prepared I was for like the free agency side of things, because I've been trying to juggle the draft and covering the team, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even know who free agents are. Like I know now. I did a little bit of work on it last night and stuff, but I was like, oh crap, I gotta get this. If I'm gonna check out of what's happening, I gotta get my shit together. I gotta figure this shit out.
Yeah, because all I know about the free agent class coming up is T. Higgins is a part of it. That's about as far as my free agency knowledge goes at this juncture.
Though it's not at tackle, there are some really interesting center and guard free agents actually. Not really anything at tackle necessarily. Garrett Bowles was the dream, like you're like, and you can tell just how big of a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? How big of a offensive line problem the NFL has, that like they were not giving. And Garrett Bowles is a good player, but they were not giving any inkling of a chance that dude was going to walk out and give them a big roster hole. And they threw that contract at him, and it's just further proof that like, yeah, the Browns are in a really bad position with some of their offensive line, but it's kind of a big problem around the NFL. But interior, especially at tackle, but in interior, there are some really intriguing veterans that are going to be available, and some stuff we'll talk about in coming weeks.
Not to like completely derail the talk about the actual Chiefs, but I was reading about a couple of tackles that people are high on in the first round as a potential avenue for the Browns, and like, yeah. While I'm still scarred from taking Jedrick Wills at 10 overall, I think if you have a chance to fix your left tackle position, you've got to. And I don't know, like I'm taking a different approach this offseason, Jacob, because so many guys last year were coming off injuries, and we were like, this is going to be fine. Like, it's not a big deal. And I've learned firsthand, what a big deal it is. So I am not going to just assume DeJuan Jones is going to be ready or is going to be in playing shape or anything. I want to operate like we know Jedrick Wills is gone. So if you're not assuming DeJuan Jones' health, right, I want to take a left tackle higher than not. I'm not sure if I want to take one in the first round, but I wouldn't feel bad about it. Like the Chargers took Joe Alt last year. I can't remember if he plays right or left tackle right now. But
he's on the right now. But let me say this: there is no Joe Alt in this class. Let me preface that. I'm not saying that there aren't guys that can play, but Joe Alt was not saying that he wasn't, because the guy that had the biggest ceiling in that first round was Olu Fashanu, who's had some success with the Jets, just because he's like a really unique athlete at his size and things of that nature. But Joe Alt was one of those, like, he just felt incredibly safe because he was just so smart, experienced, savvy, technically refined, very good athlete. Me saying Olu Fashanu was a better athlete, higher ceiling, does not mean that Joe Alt was a bad athlete. But he was like, you were like, oh, if I draft Joe Alt, I can put him on the right, left side, whatever. That's it. It's exactly what's happened. But so I preface that saying there is not one of those guys. But Kelvin Banks is really good. Kelvin Banks is like, I guess we're just going to talk about this.
Yeah, why not?
Kelvin Banks is, I did a part one of our 3-part series. Sam Penix and I have done quarterbacks. We're now on offensive tackles doing draft film room write-ups at theobr.com. You can go check that out if you want to. There's some film in those articles to show you some of the things that we talk about and highlight. But Tier 1 released today, and Tier 1 is our first rounders. Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell, Wyatt Milam from WVU, Will Campbell's from LSU, Kelvin Banks from Texas. I always forget to do that, like, because I listen to so much draft stuff and I consume so much draft stuff and I talk so much draft. I just like assume everybody knows who everybody is and where they're from. I'm really, really bad at that. So if I don't tell you who that person plays for, by all means, please ask me, because I'm just an idiot and I'll assume that you know, because I'll assume you're a freak like me. Anyway, and then you have Entre, I can't remember how to pronounce. Ursary is the left tackle for Minnesota. Real big, powerful dude, like 6'6", 330. He's a big son of a bitch. Big, mean kind of guy. Wyatt Milam, though. Wyatt Milam's that's your Wyatt Teller at left tackle, if you want to do that.
Well,
if you want to do that.
You know, because like I know there's a ton of really exciting wide receivers early in the first round, and like that would definitely be tempting to pair with Jerry Jeudy and like have Cedric Tillman is your wide receiver 3. I would feel really comfortable with that, even with the small flash because of the concussion. We haven't been able to see him continue. So like I get that could be a tempting option, but I just think they need to get back to like we talked a little bit about in the last show, like, okay, if this is the regime that's going to be here next year, they need to get back to what.
And we think that they are. Whether you agree or disagree with it, it feels like that's happening.
Okay. Right. So if we're going to get back to what made Stefanski successful in the first place, the Browns have to have a left tackle. I mean, I know I agree with you that they probably need center and maybe guard help depending on Bitonio, but I guess we're just full-fledged, you know, what are we looking forward to in the Browns season? Because that's where you are at 3-10. And if you want to know a funny joke, I'm wearing Browns gear today, right?
Are we 3-10 or 3-11?
Kent State gear, right? And between these two pieces of gear here, I've seen 3 wins this year.
Oh.
Kent State didn't win a game.
They did not. That was
Didn't win a game.
Ooh, that was tough.
3. We're strongly representing 3 wins with 2 pieces of gear. Week 15 or whatever this is.
It's like week 16 now, I think.
Yeah,
no, it is 15, right? Fuck. I don't. Wait, you're 3-11. You played 14 games, so that means it's week 16. Because last week would have been week 15 because you had the bye week.
Okay, so we were close. But
like,
yeah,
this show
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
You go ahead because I'm about to take this thing off the rails. You get us back on topic.
Okay, I just want to say, I think there's a very real debate between wide receiver and tackle in this first round. I mean, there's probably another couple positions you could say, but
Do you want
I
me to
wouldn't
really
be
throw
mad.
you? Do you want me to throw you for a loop? Because I don't even know if that's the biggest debate.
Okay, what is?
So if it's me, I love Kelvin Banks a lot. The left tackle from Texas. Just some highlights about him. Really good athlete in terms of just like the way he can move. I think sometimes he's like sloppy with his footwork and some of his hand placement and some things like that, where he's not a very refined guy, but he has like so much room to grow, and he grew so much this year. He is a 3-year starter at left tackle at Texas. He's 20 years old.
Yes.
He will play his entire rookie year at 21. I think his birthday's in March. So I think he turns 21 before the draft, and then his entire rookie year he'll be 21 years old. So that's what I'm banking a lot of that stuff on. Is my good friend Bardos, he said, I don't know shit about the draft, but 40K I'm your guy. Hey, I love that.
Oh yeah, Warhammer baby.
God. And Henry Cavill doing a Warhammer show soon, so that's pretty cool. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's going to be pretty sweet. But I love Kelvin Banks. If Kelvin Banks is there, I think I take him. But if Mason Graham or Abdul Carter are there, and that's the defensive tackle for Michigan and the edge rusher from Penn State, I would probably go with one of those guys because I think they're such good talent. Here's what I think Mason Graham is. He doesn't play the same position, but I think he's a Joe Alt style prospect. I think if you select Mason Graham, I think the bust chance on him is so low because I think he has a high floor. Obviously, everybody can bust. Injuries, something just doesn't work right, whatever. Everybody can be a bust that never does anything in the NFL. So I'm by no means saying that. What I'm saying is he's such a physically talented and refined player that I think he's at least going to be good. Like maybe he's never an all-pro, maybe he's never a Hall of Famer or anything crazy like that, but I think he's going to be really good. So that's why I think if a guy like that's there, I would take him. And then if Abdul Carter is there, man, Abdul Carter looks like Micah Parsons, man.
Okay. All right. So there's a lot of options. We're talking a lot of options here.
Now, I kind of expect both of those to go in the top 5. So,
okay. Well,
depending on where your pick ends up being, I love those guys. But if you're not there, if those guys are gone and it's wide receiver tackle, I'm 100%. As long as it's Kelvin Banks, I don't know that Will Campbell, I think, is a guard. He's got shorter arms and he can't handle speed rushers. He gives up his outside shoulder to those speed rushers way too much. He needs the protection of being inside. If Kelvin Banks is there, or if you trade back and kind of go, Wyatt Milam or Ursery or something like that, I'm totally on board with that sort of thing. But if you're telling me Kelvin Banks is on that board and you're trying to decide between wide receiver and left tackle, I'm with you 100%.
Okay. So I have two thoughts to this because number one, you just showered us in draft knowledge. So thank you.
I just took you down a really weird.
I love it. No, I got a lot of catching up to do. You are on it. So number one thing that ruined my day today was I saw.
I didn't know we were going that dark so quick.
Well, hey, but this ties in.
Yeah, sure.
The thing that ruined my day today is I saw that the Browns were one Kyle Hamilton dropped interception away from having the number 1 overall pick right now, which is insane to think about.
Isn't it? Anyway, oh my God.
Like the difference between the Browns picking 7 right now and the Browns picking number 1 is like as dramatic
Abdul Carter.
as You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you could be talking like would Shedeur, like we would be talking right now. We would say, would Shedeur Sanders come to Cleveland? Would Deion Sanders let him do that? That's what we'd be talking about. If Kyle Hamilton grabs that pick, it's crazy. Like that's bizarre to me. But number two, and probably more importantly, there are so many teams that you look at in the NFL and you say they build on both the offensive and the defensive lines, especially the offensive line. I think of how Detroit built their offensive line first, and look at what they've been doing now. Think about how San Francisco, ever since they traded for Trent Williams, and I know he's been hurt this year, he's been such a huge piece of their success. Think about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and Andrew Berry spent time in Philadelphia. I look at basically with the Browns being 3-10 and having the most expensive NFL roster in history and somehow being one of the worst teams in it, they need to get back to what they actually did successfully before. And so I think that all starts with building in the trenches. Honestly, I probably talk myself into lineman over wide receiver.
Yeah, no, and let me preface this. If they decide to take Ted McMillan or Luther Burden or anything like that, that would not be a bad pick. It just wouldn't be my preference. That's all I'm saying. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I think I would prefer if we go this direction, because in the end, I just want you to draft good football players. So if you think this guy is a really good football player, regardless of what he plays, all right, let's have that conversation and let's go from there. And, that's totally fine. Oh, side note, I got Pete Smith with my mustache so good last night. I have never seen. It was the funniest thing that ever. So Quincy's talking, and me and Peter hanging out, waiting to be brought on screen and whatnot. And he brings us both up, and he says, "Gentlemen, how you doing?" And I'm on the bottom, and him and Quincy and Peter on the top, And I said, "I'm good, and that's all I said. I said, "Oh, I'm just doing good, man. How are you?" And Pete is just. I thought his internet had gone out because it froze. This is where we are at this point at 3-11, just so you know. And he just goes, I'm sorry. I'm just looking at that mustache. And we were live, baby. This was not pre-recorded. This was not getting edited out. We were live in the trenches.
And I'll ask the show, because when Jacob first unveiled the legendary stash, which is so thick and bushy, by the way, you really pull it off. You got a great face for a mustache.
Thank you.
But I was just, I look at Jacob and I'd be like, that's my friend Bronco Jacob. And somebody would ask me who Bronco Jacob is, and I'd say, you'll know him when you see him. And it just fits for me. It fits for me. It's just, I love it, Jacob.
My coworker is always like, I just think I see you as, I just see a firefighter whenever I see you. And I'm like, oh, that's fair. It's a firefighter mustache. Offensive line. So questions were asked about the offensive line.
Before we dive into the prospects themselves, I just want to look at the overall draft status, right? Because they pick 7 right now, and Tennessee and Jacksonville still play. They're both above you right now. And you play.
Hold on, let me pull it up. You got Cincinnati, Baltimore, and the Dolphins.
Okay. So that's not actually. So the Browns really the Browns play 3 good teams. We'll see if Baltimore is sitting their guys, which they probably won't be, honestly, with the way things are right now. They play Pittsburgh this weekend, right? That's a big game for seeding.
Okay, so I was just simmed something so I could look at the draft order, and Tennessee took Kelvin Banks at pick 6.
That sucks.
I was a little pissed off about that.
All right, so let's get higher. How do we get higher in the draft? Obviously, they lose out. They're playing Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and we're going to dive into all of that. But you need who is it that you need to win most? Probably Tennessee. Maybe really
all of them, because the Giants and the Raiders have 2 wins, but the other 4, the picks 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all 3-win teams.
Who are 3, 4, 5, and 6?
3, 4, 5, and 6. That's New England, Jacksonville, Carolina, and Tennessee. Isn't that crazy that you are let's say everybody loses out in the top 10. If everybody loses out, you would be a 3-14 team, and you would only get the 7th pick.
That's insane to think about.
I talk about this all the time when we talk about trying to figure out like what's going on with the quarterback situation, like in Cleveland specifically, and like talking about drafting quarterbacks and why they went after Watson instead of trying to, find and develop and all these things. It's like, well, whenever you're there, whenever they are bad enough to get a top quarterback, like there was never one. I mean, the Baker draft, yes, and we all know what happens there. They were the number 1 pick, but then it's like, okay, now you're really bad. You're a 3-win team. So surely you'll be able to get the crack at like one of the top 2 quarterbacks or something, right? No, you might be picking 7th. You may be so bad that you win 3 games and still not get, like, what the fuck, dude?
Here's something you might not know. I saw this stat. This is the first time, I don't know in how many years, but it's been a lot of years since every NFL team has owned their own first-round pick.
Oh, it's been a really long time. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that a while back. Yeah. Yep.
So you look at it and you're saying, well, suddenly there's a bunch of these teams that are incentivized to just be bad, right?
Because everybody has their pick.
Right. Yeah. So you like Tennessee's moving off Will Levis, right? They're starting Mason Rudolph, right? They're gonna want a quarterback. The Giants and Raiders desperately.
Yeah, that's 1, 2. There's your 2 quarterbacks right there.
Yeah.
That's your 2 first-rounders. I don't have a single other quarterback I'd consider in the first round.
But just like last year, inevitably somebody's going to get pushed up the draft board because all these teams need quarterbacks.
I'm really interested by that. Just solely because I remember the Malik Willis draft, and everybody said that, and then nobody got moved up but Kenny Pickett. You get True. 1 quarterback before the 3rd round, like, which is just insane.
Right.
Drew, I just want to address Drew's question about needing to see Zappe. Here's the thing about that, in my personal opinion. I've seen Bailey Zappe. You haven't seen him in Cleveland, but Bailey Zappe's played more than Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So in terms of evaluating quarterbacks, I kind of think DTR. I get it because everybody's real low on DTR, and that's fine because I'm not here to tell you that like he's the franchise saver or anything of that nature. But he does have 3 starts, and he was kind of thrust into like 2 of them or 1 or 2, whatever it is. He's got. Is he really only have 3 starts? That's right, isn't it?
I remember he started against Denver last year, and he starts against Baltimore in the surprise situation.
And Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
and he hasn't started this year, so that would be 3. He's played twice. Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to say about Dorian, he plays against Pittsburgh. The offense is bad, but they win, right? Then they go to Denver. He's actually slinging it on them, right? Like he was actually starting to look a little more comfortable, and then he gets knocked out of the game.
And then he's just not been.
Right. And every other time he's come in, it's been like this, like the most bizarre scenario of the season is probably the 1 week the Browns decided to make Jameis Winston the emergency 3rd starter. Right.
Yeah, and that just so happens to fall into the time that Watson tears his Achilles. It's like, what is going on?
Right. Like, so Dorian's thrown into it again.
My buddy Bardo here was asking me in the DMs. He said, "What is going on this year as opposed to last year?" And I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, has there been more tomfuckery this year? Like let me think about this. We talk about all the injuries that happened last year, and boy, were there some. What I think part of the problem with how we got here compared to being able to overcome it last year was we were still dealing with last year this year. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Your 3 tackles, because after the bye and stuff, and once he moved to left tackle, I thought he looked better. But like Dawand started the year, I didn't think he looked healthy. And people talked about, oh, we think he was 400 pounds. He was over. He was this. It was that. It was all that stuff. And it's like, yeah. And then it's like, Jack Conklin's been fantastic. Could you imagine if you'd had him starting week 1?
And it was a hamstring injury with him, right? That set him back.
Well, he did miss a little bit of time still with the knee, but when he was about to come back, he got the end. It was like week 3 or 4 or something like that. He was going to make his debut. We all knew it. And then come Saturday, he like injured his hamstring on Friday. So yeah, it was, but still, he was still working his way back from last year's injury. Jed never got and I know the play and all that stuff, and I'm not advocating for him. But you thought you were going to have your left tackle and your right tackle, and you didn't have either one of them. You signed Hakeem Adeniji to be a swing tackle, and you thought James Hudson would at least be able. And James Hudson's been halfway decent as a right tackle, not as a left tackle. No, not as left. Adeniji goes down. So now you've got Hudson out there and a hurt DeJuan Jones, and then Hudson's gone. Now you got a right tackle in Jermaine Ifedi starting games at left tackle. You got to bring Jerron Christian back. And I think it just, when you mix all of that together with the fact that the quarterback play was so anemic, I'm telling you, I know that some of the numbers were better, but the offense was better with PJ Walker last year than it was with Deshaun.
And let me build on that real quick, Jacob, because okay, everybody was talking about how this shoulder injury to Deshaun is unique, right? And they're not sure if he's going to be ready. Okay, and I get it, he was ready, but like if we're going to look at right. I get it. I get it. But if we're going to look at how many games does he start? He starts like 8, 9,
7. He goes 1-6. They go 1-6.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So, okay, I inflated it. They go 1-6. But I would say over those 7 games, and I would have to go and look back at this, but I can't think of one deep ball he threw that even remotely resembled 2023, because he had a couple. He had a couple in 2023.
Yeah.
Where he, like, I remember that dime to Amari Cooper between 2 defenders. I know it's against the Cardinals. I get that. But you looked at that and you said, he can throw the deep ball. It just needs some confidence, right? Or like I can remember that him bringing them back against Baltimore. He gets sacked and it's like 3rd and 15 and he throws this dart to, I don't remember the receiver, but he had that zip still, right? And so when you're looking at injuries that carry over, he never had the same type of velocity ever.
He certainly didn't have the mental aspect of it.
No, but that's another injury that carried over because let's be fair, the Browns could at least win football games with Deshaun Watson in 2023. They were winning football games.
Yep.
They could not win with it. They won one game against one of the worst teams in football, right? Barely. They could not win football games with Deshaun Watson in 2024. And I think that part of that is him getting injured again. And that's carrying over because he was better in 2023.
And so what I'm trying to do, if you're just tuning in or anything like this, I was asked what's the difference between last year and this year, and I'm trying to kind of talk through it all. And we're talking about things carrying over from 23 into 24, specifically the injury things. And so you say, okay, I'll give you the things that we just listed. Let's say somebody says, okay, I'll give you the things that you just listed, but what about the defense? Well, here's what I say about the defense. You got a full year of that on tape. And if you watch the tail end of last year against the veteran quarterbacks, against Matt Stafford in the Rams, against Russell Wilson in the Broncos, and Russell was bad. He's been very good for the Steelers, unfortunately, this year. But he was not good, very, very good last year for the Broncos, or else he would still be a Bronco. But he shredded them. It's because as they got a little bit of tape, the Browns defense was kind of predictable. And this year they tried to make some changes and they tried to change some things up. And, Martin Emerson, I just got to think he's hurt because he just doesn't look. Which is I don't know. I still err that I think Martin Emerson can be a good player, but Emerson's not playing as well.
Newsome entered the year hurt.
Huh?
Newsome entered the year hurt, and now he's hurt. Same injury, right?
And he had hamstring surgery, and we've like never heard of that. Like that's it's insane level of injury to have surgery that I've never really heard many people have. But but they became a little bit predictable, so they weren't able to dominate on the level that they dominated last year, which made up for the offensive issues last year. And then once Jameis takes over, we see some of that Flacco resurgence, but the turnovers were worse.
Yeah.
Turnovers got a lot worse. And the offense is just, I think it's just been more bland and predictable because don't get me wrong, they couldn't run the ball when Joe was here last year either. Don't get me wrong, they couldn't run the ball then either. But I think they just kind of got predictable. I don't love Ken Dorsey, the play caller. I'm not saying he's terrible, but I don't love it. I love Kevin way more than I do and that sort of thing. And that's what I think the difference is between last year and this year. And that's why, buddy, I've done some soul searching, I've been, yes, I agree. Oh, sorry. I meant to bring that up. Ford got better throughout the year. I think Ford has been much better than people have given him credit for. And a lot of that has to do with his offensive line can't run block worth a fuck. That 62-yard touchdown was sweet.
Yes, it was.
It was really sweet. But
home run hitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just has that ability, and the Browns haven't had that in a while.
And that's what it becomes really interesting and what I would do. And maybe we'll do a little mock draft here in a minute. Maybe we'll do it.
I like mock drafts.
I do a little bit. But anyway, I did a lot of soul searching. I tried to stay off social media because it doesn't matter if the team is 16-0, what they are. If they lose a game, Twitter. It doesn't matter. They could lose 47-46 to the 07 Patriots, and it would be like, I hate all of you. Burn the city to the ground like that.
Do you know a good example of that? I don't know if you saw his post-game press conference. I'm just watching NFL Live. The Steelers lose to the Falcons or the Eagles, right? And Najee has a really bad fumble, and they were like, you could say that they were in that. And a reporter asks Mike Tomlin, like, are you thinking about any dramatic changes after this loss? And he said, it's one loss. Let's not be dramatic.
Aren't they like 10-4 or something?
Yeah. But to your point, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. The Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin, who's never had a losing season in his whole fucking tenure there. God,
he loses one game and they're like, "Do you want to make changes?" Yeah, they're 10.
Are you gonna
Dude,
are you? Can you imagine?
Do you realize they've clinched a playoff berth? They've already clinched a playoff berth, and they're like, "Do you want to make a change?"
Like, I just want to know what that's like for 5 of 18 years. I'll take 4. I'll settle for 4. Yeah. 4 of 18.
But this is why. But what I'm getting at is, I've been on a lot of soul searching about the do you blow it up crowd? Because, and I will say this, that I have said this multiple times on this show. If you watch some of the shows that I've done with the OBR and stuff, you'll see how conflicted I've gone, because I have gone back and forth and people be like, oh, you did a little bit of flip-flopping this year. You're fucking right, I did. There's been some flip-flopping. I've said, these are my guys. I've said, oh God, I don't know if these are my guys. Then I was back to my guys. It's a lot. It's been such a weird, bizarre year because even though they've got 3 wins, they've had some losses, like that Denver loss. Not ashamed by that at all. That was a hell of a game. Well, I was ashamed by some of what the defense did, but in terms of losing that game, that's like when You remember the poop game when Baker and Lamar, and you lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to bed like defeated. I went to bed just jacked and was like, I gotta watch this game again because it was just fun. So even as a 3-win team, there have been some periods of time, not the first 7 games, but there's been some periods of time where you've been like, oh, well, but I feel good about what they're doing here with and you still feel great about 1,000-yard receiver Jerry Jeudy with 3 games left. I think you've seen some awesome stuff out of Mike Hall. Isaiah McGuire continues to stack games. Denzel Ward's playing the best football of his career. I think Grant Delpit's been pretty good. I think Mahmoud Diabate has emerged as a pretty good rotational linebacker. There's lots of stuff to talk about. But ultimately, I think this regime gets one more crack at it. And I think that's okay. And I think that I'm in support of it because just last year, they proved they can do it. Let me say this. I am not putting that comment up there, MC. You mother. I'm not doing it. Don't you do it. Don't you put that comment on the screen. Don't you put that comment on the screen. Aha, see? I clicked on it right. Oh, you motherfucker. I was going to put it up myself, but you happened to click on it at the same time I did, so it got knocked off.
Yep.
But I see that there's not been an official word on JOK other than he won't play this week. I don't expect to see him this year. There's no reason to at this point. Just let that dude heal up and figure it out in the offseason. But why I think it's okay, I totally completely understand everybody on the other side saying I'm sick of this. Most expensive roster in football, unwatchable, blah blah. Those are facts.
I'm going to give you some of that here shortly, but
it's like those are factual statements. I can't say no, that's bullshit. No, what I can say is okay, yes, but so my thing is, I'm not going to I'm not going to see a lot of these comments and say and go and attack or anything like that. But what I'm going to say is I think they deserve another crack at it, but they've got to make adjustments. They've got to be able to learn from their mistakes. So a couple of things. Go back to under center, play action, run the ball, pin pull, zone read, inside zone. Go hire someone like Clint Kubiak. I would give Clint Kubiak whatever it took to get him over here. Some of that stuff he ran against us, against our defense that can't handle motion when we played New Orleans, that was awesome. That's Casey's idea. I'm pretending it was mine, but I'm gonna continue to pretend it was mine. He knows I'm doing this. And I hate saying invest more in the offensive line in a sense that I don't want to imply that they didn't try, because they did. There was just not a lot of quality options, and a bunch of them got hurt. Adeniji, I'm not calling Adeniji an all-pro, but he can pass protect and sure can pass protect a hell of a lot better than Jermaine Ifedi. So you would still be in a better spot and some things like that. So they did try. I think they should try even more, and they should make sure they load up. I think you draft 2 or 3 of them. You got 11 picks, get me 2 or 3 offensive linemen, and at least 2 in the top 100, because you have 4 top 100 picks. And when you have 5, if you count their first rounders, like 106 or 104 or whatever, I think 2 of those picks should be offensive linemen, 1 interior, 1 outside. Although you're gonna have to find your center, a new center. By the way, get that dude off my team. Get 55 the hell away from my football team. But the center class is terrible, so make sure you address that in free agents, because Parker Brailsford was my number one center, and he's going back to Alabama. So Although you could use like a fifth or sixth round pick on Seth McLaughlin, the Ohio State center that tore his Achilles. It was his Achilles, I think. He won't play. He won't play in 2025 probably, but he was he was still won an All-American. I think he won the top center of the year award or something like that. So you could just probably get him in the fifth or sixth stash or something like that. So you got to make adjustments. I agree with Connie. Fire Dorsey. I don't like it. I've gone back and forth. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but I want to lean back into what he did when he got here. Do the stuff that we have seen work. Now, I will say this. Clint Kubiak's the guy that if you bring in, I'm okay with him calling the plays over Kevin Stefanski just because it's so similar in what they like to do, and it's going to be that stuff where they can really work together to formulate a better plan, or just, bring somebody else and let Kevin call plays. But what I'm saying is learn and make some different choices, I guess, and just go all in on what got you here. Go all in on what got you the job and what got you the playoff appearances. And because they're not surviving. You asked me this question. Are they surviving another bad season? No.
I don't think so either.
No.
And everything they reported has said everybody's coming back. So I'm going to operate with that right now. Although you take there's good and bad. There's good and bad.
Absolutely.
We can say right now definitively that Andrew Berry stole a third round pick from the Bills for Amari Cooper. That's great. We can say definitively that a fifth and a sixth for Jerry Jeudy was an awesome trade.
Yep.
Honestly, anytime the Browns actually get a real passer, Elijah Moore looks like a real receiver. I've liked what I've seen out of Cedric Tillman. There's good. There's good, and I acknowledge that there's good. But I just keep coming back to you are 3-10, and does the good outweigh the bad? And I just look at the record and I say no, because if you remove the Deshaun Watson pick or the Deshaun Watson trade, it's you selected Jedrick Wills and that sucks, and guys like Siaki Ika and Anthony Schwartz have basically been dead on arrival, and that sucks too.
And you're going to have those picks.
Right. You're going to have those picks. But it's so you can look at the draft picks and say, okay, maybe some of the good outweighs the bad here. Like you mentioned Elijah McGuire. We talked about Michael Hall. You're looking at there's some guys there that you've drafted that I know Mark Delpit. Right. But there's some guys there that you've drafted that are cornerstones of your franchise. So I get that. And so the draft picks could potentially outweigh each other, but it's just to me, it's just this Deshaun Watson thing has because that's why I'm so frustrated, Jacob. That's why I'm so mad. Because hear me out. What it feels like to me right now is that the Browns are just a more talented version of the 2016 year all over again. Because I get it. That team went winless, right? You only have 3 wins. You're most likely going to only finish with 3 wins. And I acknowledge that you have more talent, but it just feels like because there doesn't seem to be this quarterback right there waiting for you, because like you said, New York and Las Vegas are ahead of you and they both want a quarterback. Because it doesn't seem like there's a quarterback available to you, they're probably going to go offensive lineman, maybe wide receiver, maybe defensive tackle. Right? Maybe they build the trenches early, right? And so then your quarterback answer to me is 2 years away. And so it feels like you're in 2016. We are going to use this next draft to build up our depth and fix our holes and fill what has been drained by Deshaun Watson. And then in 2026, that's when they go for it. And that's why I'm so frustrated, because it feels like, to me at least, this team is 2 years away. And just before, because I know you got a lot to say, just before you go, I just want to say that there's part of me that leans towards not hiring a new regime yet, because I'm expecting next year to be bad. And I don't want a new regime to have that bad year that hangs over from this failed Deshaun Watson trade.
Kirk Cousins just got benched.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, they're eliminated, aren't they? They probably are. I would assume that's why they're going to go to Michael Penix.
What are they? They're 7-7 now. 7-7. And the Buccaneers, Baker's Bucks lead the division at 8-6, right?
Yeah, they're 7 and yeah. Oh my God, they're definitely not eliminated. Damn,
they're a game out of the division at 7-7.
They just won yesterday.
Yeah, they were 6-7. Now they're 7-7. They're one game out.
Holy shit! And
they paid Kirk Cousins a gazillion $100 million.
Interesting.
Ooh.
Who they are still in the division hunt. I didn't realize it was that. Yeah, I should have. I forget about the NFC division, like who's in the divisions.
Must be nice, man. Must be nice.
I'm
be able to compete for your division at 7-7.
I know, right? You're just right there, Michael Penix. That's an interesting one. Here's the one thing that I come back to here. Do you remember what we said all off season long? That because of what happened last year, that Kevin and Andrew are no longer tied to the Deshaun Watson has to succeed, that they'll get a chance because they proved they could win. That's what we said. We said both of those guys are no longer tied to his success because they showed they can win without him. So to me, we said that. So
we did. I said it.
Shouldn't we? This is where I'm finally at, I think, for today. For today. We both, just so we're clear, we've both been up since like 4 a.m.
Yes, we have.
We are just, for me, it was like 4:40. Let's be honest. I got a full 40 minutes longer.
Rise and grind, baby. Rise and grind.
Like 4 hours today, though, so it's like whatever. I know you do more driving than me because it's your job, but part of your job. But anyway,
you're right. You're right. We both said before the season that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski had outlived Deshaun because of last year.
What's really unfortunate is they're going to have to work magic, because you don't have, this is not last year's class. Like, everybody does this exercise. I think Shedeur and Cam Ward has a higher ceiling, but I think Shedeur Sanders is a safer pick, and that's why I kind of have edged him up the QB1. They're kind of like neck and neck for me because I think Cam Ward's got much more physical talent, but he can be a gunslinging bonehead from time to time. If you were to ask me, where does Shedeur rank in last year's class, you're absolutely, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May are absolutely ahead of him. All three of those. Absolutely. If this was last year, you're saying all three of those are absolutely ahead of him. Who was 4? That was Penix. So Shedeur's younger and doesn't have the injury history. So personally, I probably put Shedeur there, but I'm willing to bet some of my favorite draft analysts would put Penix. Shedeur's probably in the same bucket as JJ and Bo Nix.
So Bo Nix was the 6th quarterback taken, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's Caleb, Jaden, Drake May, Michael Penix. Who's the 5th quarterback?
I just said it, JJ.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
JJ McCarthy.
I forgot he exists because he got hurt and Sam Darnold's been destroying people. Dude, there were some throws that Darnold threw last night that I saw from the end zone throw that I'm like, what the? Do you realize something? Do you want me to tell you something? Take a wild guess right now how old Sam Darnold is. 30.
He's 27.
That's nuts. He's younger.
Just remember, he came into the league, he was like 20.
Yeah, I remember because they talked about how he was more raw. and Baker was the more experienced.
Yeah, because
older.
Baker had the several years he had been at Texas Tech and then several years at Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yep.
And then that was kind of like what the Browns kind of used, what John Dorsey was kind of looking at between the two, to kind of make that decision.
Right.
But the thing is, if the Browns want to go get their quarterback and they want to move on, they want to figure it out, and they want to do something else. Because Andrew Berry, I think we're all pretty clear that it was probably Andrew Berry that spearheaded this, the Deshaun Watson thing. But
is there a better division of offensive minds than Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur, and Kevin O'Connell?
Well, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan are in the same division.
Right. But is there a third?
Harbaugh's there, and he's not really. Who am I missing? And then it's Vegas. So not that division.
Yeah, it's like Andy Reid and Sean Payton, right? Yeah.
Although I would take McVay and Shanahan over Ben Johnson for sure. But in terms of getting three really good minds in a division, no, I don't think so.
O'Connell's really good, man. He is really good. He's gotten a lot out of those offenses with Kirk, now with Darnold, right? That I think they were a playoff team. They won a playoff game, right?
Until this year, Kevin was too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
So this is my thing. Watson is Barry's quarterback. So in my mind, Barry needs to do whatever Kevin says at quarterback this year.
And that's what. And keep in mind, all reports said that they did not bring Flacco back to protect the feelings of. I'm not going to say anything mean.
I don't care about that aspect of it because Flacco flamed out. Flacco without Kevin flamed out.
Agreed. But with Flacco, with Kevin, they led the league in passing. I get it. The interceptions were there, but they weren't like Jameis's. I wanted to talk about this earlier. They weren't like Jameis's interceptions. Like there were some bad ones, but like Jameis just looks like he's blind some of the time, man. Like he just like, I think he needs LASIK again. Man, what are you looking at?
No, I don't know, man.
But like Joe, like, do you know that we just had the anniversary of the Chicago game? I think yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Oh man. So, but you brought up the greatest point, and I need to address this too. We agreed preseason, and this is what happens every season. Every season, if a team goes in knowing they're going to be bad, like with Sashi Brown, we knew we were going to be bad, right?
Yeah, so it didn't matter.
But by the time you get to the end of it, and the emotions get involved, you don't care anymore that you started the year knowing you were going to be bad. You just know you're bad and you want people fired. We agreed that Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry had solidified themselves beyond Deshaun Watson. And here I am being a prisoner of the moment, completely forgetting that. You bring up a really good point.
11 losses will do that to you, though.
Yes, it will. And it's a harsh reminder that just less than 365 days ago, when the Browns beat the Bears, we're just like, man, these guys might really know what they're doing. They might really know what they're doing. And it's crazy to think, 366 days later or whatever, like the narrative is completely flipped. And I perspective is so important, man. Perspective is so important. You brought up a great point. I don't know. I don't know.
So, like, my thing is, learn from your mistakes, though. Like, stop taking so many character guys and stop signing guys with long injury histories because we don't have good injury luck. So stop that. I love Mo Hurst, but that dude just couldn't stay healthy. And it's like, now granted, they're fine on the defensive line. So that worked out. But like, if a guy's got injury history, don't draft him. I love Josh Simmons. I'm not willing to take that risk right now because we need a tackle. The Ohio State left tackle that tore his ACL. Yeah. But it's like, if this is a guy you're like, well, he's here in the 4th round because he's got character concern. Fuck no, don't pick him. Stop with some of the riskier type moves. Like,
you can't be risky.
Deshaun Watson being the riskiest move of all time.
It's
for
like
obvious reasons.
I don't know if there's any gamblers here, but it's like if you're playing with house money, you're going to be more risky. Like I was playing craps with Andy, and I immediately won, and it was great. And so I started betting like these asinine amounts of money because it wasn't my money; it's the house's money, right?
Yeah.
So
you
it's
don't
like,
have house money anymore,
right? You don't have you used it all up. Like if you had 3 more 1st round picks and another 2nd and all this extra money, and you could like half of those guys hit or whatever. Talk about a completely different team. You have lost all of that. You lost all the free agency signing power you had with Deshaun's money. You lost all the draft picks you had with Deshaun's trade. You cannot afford any missing of any kind. And I agree with you, Jacob. You brought up the greatest point of the show, and it's honestly changed my whole perspective because I literally was just calling for Andrew Berry's job yesterday. But we entered the season saying Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski had proven they could win without Deshaun Watson, and they should survive no matter what the outcome of his play was. You brought that's it. That's it. How do I argue that? How do I argue it?
And that's why I'll give him one more year. But like, I'm scrutinizing everything they do this offseason. Like everything's going under the microscope. Mm-hmm. Be smart. Lots of different things. And Casey will have a lot to add to this conversation and whatnot as we go on. It's almost Merry Christmas.
We love you.
Yeah. It was new protein day. I ordered new protein powder today. So
what kind did you get?
Skippy peanut butter.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. I've got a new protein. See, I like that because it means you've been consistent because if you need to order new protein, that means you have used the other protein. So just like, okay, so it's new protein day.
I like it.
Christmas next week.
I've been debating if I'm going to work Christmas Eve or not. I'm not sure if I should work Monday or if I should work Christmas Eve. I guess I'll have to decide.
I'm working Monday. I'm working Monday. I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I'm working Thursday, Friday because
I'm off.
If I don't work, if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I got to get those hours in.
That's fair. I'm a little different. You know why? And so it's like I just have to decide when to do the work. And also, I have been watching the animated series of Trailer Park Boys. And it's like Trailer Park Boys, but because it's animated, they can do the craziest nonsense you could possibly imagine Trailer Park Boys doing. So if you like Trailer Park Boys, you should watch the animated series.
There you go.
You know what, Jacob? I feel a lot better today.
100%.
So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. Let's see, it's 12:17. So that means technically we're scheduled to do a show on Christmas Eve. I'm not going to be able to do a show on Christmas Eve. So I'm not sure. Right. So I'm not sure when we're going to see you again. But basically, this is year 3 of the show now, Jacob.
Yeah.
3. This is year 3, man. And you know what? As we turn the dials to 2025, I like to be appreciative. And so, Jacob, I appreciate you and the fact that we are in year 3 of this show. So I'm thankful for you for DMing me, and I'm thankful for everybody who gives us their time every week because it means a lot, man. It means a lot that we can be here and that you guys think that we're worth it. And that you'll spend your time with us during the week. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to you, Jacob. I hope all of you have the best holiday because I don't know when we're going to be back. I don't know when we'll figure that out. I'm not sure. But we love you. And I love Jacob. And that's all I know. So with that being said, this has been the final episode, maybe of the year. I don't know. the
Probably
Barking Brand
not.
show. No, probably not. Probably not. One more episode. Yeah. Highly uplifting episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob. Go Browns.